Hey Adventures, so today is going to be a book review. This is actually going to be for The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the first time I've ever reviewed this book, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a second here. Yes, so this is for The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is it's a fantasy. It's kind of like a fairy tale fantasy, also a young adult, middle grade, adult kind of, depends on who you're talking to. And it was written as a children's bedtime story type thing. Yeah, it's an adventure. It's just a classic as well. There's just so many things that this book encapsulates, and we'll get into them as I go through here. Before I get into the review though, I'd just quickly like to say if you like what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe, and we will get right into this. Alright, so The Hobbit is a standalone novel set in the world of Middle-earth, and it's the first novel that Tolkien published. It's not the first one he wrote. He actually had a version of the Silmarillion written before The Hobbit, but clearly, for good reason, the publishers were like, no, you can't publish this. But he did write The Hobbit, and The Hobbit kind of established the world for him. Then the publishers wanted a sequel to The Hobbit, and so what happened is he wrote The Lord of the Rings as a sequel to The Hobbit, but in the process of writing The Lord of the Rings, it turned out that he couldn't have The Lord of the Rings as a direct sequel. It had to be something completely different and bigger. And so what you end up with is The Hobbit as a standalone novel, and the book that was originally supposed to be the sequel to The Hobbit as a single novel, standalone single novel, split into 3 parts most of the time, sometimes 6, sometimes all combined into one. So basically you have 2 standalone novels that Tolkien wrote. But The Hobbit, as I mentioned, does take place before the Lord of the Rings. I don't know how exactly this review will go, since I'm really trying not to gush the entire time, and instead actually provide a review of the book, but we will see. Although I've read this book several times, both in life and since starting this channel, I've never actually reviewed this book. I've of course done little mini reviews and wrap-ups or whatever, but I've never actually sat down and done a dedicated review for The Hobbit. So this is a very fun, fast-paced, magical book. There's so much that goes on in such a short page count. I believe this one that I have here is 200 and just under 300 pages. Oh, just at 300 pages exactly. So you have 298 pages is all that this book is. So it's a short book. Short page counts, low word count as well. But it never feels rushed. It was originally told as something like a children's bedtime tale, as I already mentioned, or something along those lines where you can sit down and tell a chunk of it and then end and leave at a satisfying point so you can move on. And because of that, each chapter is its own little mini story in many ways. It's very episodic, but it adds to the wonder of the story because we're introduced to something new in each chapter. We find more and more creatures and settings all throughout with some fun and dynamic characters. But the story is a journey. We follow a colorful group of characters through each of these adventures right to the end of the story. We watch them grow and discover more about themselves. We see the world and how interesting and expansive it is. And when it is time for the story to be over, we're sad, but we're excited for the next time we can go on the adventure and live it all again. And that's one of those things that makes this book so great, is there's never a bad time to reread The Hobbit. You always can sit down and enjoy The Hobbit. It's a timeless story in that way. Tolkien is of course legendary for his immersive writing, and though written with a younger audience in mind, he doesn't hold back with the immersiveness of this book. You can see the world so clearly and feel the setting in ways that are seldom experienced. And the themes of home and friendship are just so well executed in this book. One of the highlights of this book is seeing Bilbo's journey and how he goes from the entire time being like, well, I wish I was back in... well, actually, it starts out with him leaving, oh, this isn't so bad, I can do adventures, and then very, very quickly he realizes, I wish I was back home by my fire, because I hate this is not fun, this is not good, this is just horrible, it makes me sneeze, I'm cold, I'm wet, all these things, this, that, and the other, and then he gets to the end of the story and he comes back home, And then you get to the end of the story and you realize how he's grown from being that I wish I was back home to being like, yeah, I wish I was back home, but I'm still glad that I came on this journey. The only thing really left to talk about though at this point is the audiobook. I mean, it's not the only thing left to talk about. There's so much that could be talked about with this video. But like I said, I don't want it to become just a gush fest on this book. But this time for my reread, on my last reread, which was in December, I listened to the audiobook as narrated by Andy Serkis. There's other narrators who have done this audiobook, but I chose to listen to the Andy Serkis narration on this one, and he does an absolutely phenomenal job with it. It's a very different experience listening to the book versus reading it physically, but you pick up on little things that you've never noticed before. Serkis, having played the role of Gollum in the film adaptations, knows the importance and weight of this book, and it truly shows in his performance, not just of that character, but of every character. You can see how much he puts into every single voice that he does, every single role that is in this book, character, the narration, just the moments of narration and exposition, I guess, that are in the story that aren't dialogue. You can see how much intentionality he puts into every word he narrates, every sentence he narrates in this book. And that's very cool because a lot of times you don't see people with that much respect for his story. So yes, I adore this story, and I can and have gushed about this book for a very, very long time, and it is well deserved. Sometimes though, we just need a story that's fun and simple, as this book is, to remind us of so many things, and I just want to leave it at that, because I think that's more powerful than going into the things that it can remind us of. So I will leave it there, and we will see you guys again soon. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and we have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.